Yeah, hello and welcome to another episode of the weekly Spielworxx chat season 2. My name is Uli Blennemann. Tharos by Bernd Scholz is now on Kickstarter and the game is funded. But of course, all your support, every game matters. So thank you very much for your support. This is really, truly appreciated. And I'm learning quite a bit during the campaign. What works, what could be improved, what could be handled in a different way. So next time, hopefully the campaign is even better. But I'm satisfied with the game very much. And by the way, the URL, this is again a URL posting episode, I fear. Let me briefly bring it up here. It's here. So that's the Kickstarter URL. And hello Mo, hello to Texas. Hopefully the power situation over there is better in the meantime. Hello Matze, Spieleverteiler. Good to see you. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments to anything here, please post them in the chat window and I will respond. And also, thank you very much for your willingness to help with the Smoky Valley blind testing. Smoky Valley is a second game in the Griffintown series of games, and I was able to form a few European blind testing groups for this fantastic game by Claude Sirois. So thank you very much. Among new games, what did I receive? I received this game here, Riftforce from One More Time Game. So this is a really neat small package. And Riftforce is a cool two-player dual card game. So if you are interested in this type of games, dual card games, go check it out. So this is Riftforce, small European publisher, very nice package. And I'm also posting the URL of that one quickly. Let's move it in here. There it is, Riftforce. And now to two very interesting games. So for next Saturday, we have scheduled an online game of Westphalia. This is Westphalia by Hollandspiele, so typical Hollandspiele box. And as I said, this is a URL episode, so third one is incoming. So you can check this game out on BGG. So this is Westphalia. And Westphalia is an exactly 6-player game. So it's not 2 to 6, 3 to 6, 4 to 6, it's exactly 6 players. It's a 6-player game on the diplomatic negotiations and military campaigns that brought an end to the 30 Years' War and the 80 Years' War. The question in this game is not who wins the war, but to arrive at a settlement that meets political, confessional, and economic goals of the players' powers. And the goals are not mutually exclusive, which is interesting. So if multiple players meet their victory conditions, they all win. However, if all 6 players manage to meet their goals, then the game goes to a scoring round and only one player wins. And all these powers are asymmetric, so there is Austria, Bavaria, Spain, France, Sweden, and the Dutch Republic. And another interesting feature, in my opinion, in the game is that there is no money, just debt. So at the end of the game, your debt is reduced according to your accomplishments, and the remaining debt is then compared to a faction-specific benchmark to check for victory. I have no idea if this works via Vassal, because it's also a negotiation game, and if you then have turned on Skype or Zoom, if 6 players are talking, I'm not that sure, but all Hollandspiele designs are interesting in my opinion, and at least everybody should give them a try. You know, Hollandspiele also had this Guilty Land and the first edition of An Infamous Traffic by Cold Whirly. So I'm curious about Westphalia and will report back on this game. And there is already somebody, BG84BB. Westphalia will be great. Looking forward to it, Uli. Steffen. Yes, Steffen is, of course, participating in that game, so I will beat him. Maybe, but yes. So we are really looking forward to that game, and it will be 2 Americans and 4 Germans playing the game. And so let's see. I'm curious. Daniel, yes, Westphalia by Rollenspiele. So 6-player, just a 6-player only game. So according to the box, but who cares what the box is saying? It's just a 2-hour playing time. But only 1 player has played it before the pandemic, so in late 2019 once, and all the others haven't played it. And we'll see how this goes. And Daniel, yeah, you are saying I'm late. Of course you are late. Last week I think you were on time, but the 5 weeks before you were late. So this, you don't have to mention this. Of course you're late. What else are we doing right now, including Steffen, by the way, is right now we are testing Matthias Cramer's Weimar. And I mentioned this briefly last week, and I promise that this is the last time for today to post a BGG URL. So let me see, this is the game I'm mentioning here. Then you see, I need Twitch to email before you go live. Yeah, that's true, absolutely. So Weimar by Matthias Cramer. This is a 4-player game of the Weimar Republic from late 1918 to early 1933. When the Nazis took power. And the players, they are either representing the KPD, the communists, or the SPD, the Social Democrats, or the Zentrum, which is more or less, as the name says, a center party, but during the Weimar Republic it moved to the right. And then there's the DNVP, which are right-wing nationalists. And at the start of the game, the SPD and the Zentrum, they form the government of the Weimar Republic, and they try to keep the democracy, the first real German democracy, afloat. Whereas the DNVP and the KPD, they have different aims. They try to topple the republic. And still, there are temporary alliances possible. So the government actually likes to see right-wing nationalists fighting communists. So for example, in Munich, at the start of the game, there's a Räterepublik, a council's republic. And if the right-wing party and their paramilitary troops are fighting the communists, this is for a while, this is in the interest of the government. So very interesting. And the NSDAP, the Nazis, are not a player power. And let's face it, the NSDAP was a splinter party till the late 20s, so they did not play a large role during most of the time during the game. Instead, the Nazis get stronger in the game by certain actions of the players, and they may take over power. And I will now put on Vassal. So, and of course, please keep in mind this is all prototype material, handmade by designer Matthias Cramer, who also did Rococo, Dynasties, and a lot of Lancaster, of course, and a lot of other games. So, yeah, Steffen is confirming Weimar is an interesting and nice design. Yes, it's a very unusual design. So let's move to Vassal here. Let's see if I can manage this. Yeah, so what you're seeing here is the main board. So of Weimar, and so the game runs for, let me enlarge this a little bit, goes for 6 game rounds, so in 3 different pairs of game rounds. Then the board shows you the most important German cities. For example, here's Berlin at the start, you have Munich over here, and here's Essen. And if you look closely, you see the fairground of the Essenspiel here. I think it was built in 1918. I may be wrong, but I think this is about the time when the fairground was built. So what are you doing when it is your turn? So at the start of each game round, one of 6 game rounds, you are picking as a party an agenda card. So let me open the card window of the SPD here. So these 4 cards are agenda cards. So each player, each game round has an agenda card which moves the party somewhat, not too much, but somewhat in a special direction. So for example, if the SPD selects this card, Arbeiter, wählt eure Partei, die Sozialdemokratie, then they get an additional small card deck, the S deck over here, which are socialism cards. So this is pretty good. But let's say the SPD is choosing this card, Deine Wahl, SPD, Sozialdemokraten. Then they are getting, during a crisis roll, instead of 2 dice, they are getting 3 dice, which is a pretty large advantage. So each player is doing this at the start of a game round simultaneously and hidden. And then this card is turned over, and this agenda is in effect for that round. Let's move back to the main board. And when it's your turn, when it's a player's turn, you select one of 5 cards. So you are starting with 5 cards in your hand. There are some exceptions. It could be 6 cards as well, but normally it's just 5 cards. And before I go to the board, let me just show you these cards. So you start with 2 timeline cards randomly. These are basically event cards, common deck of event cards. And then you're getting 3 party cards. And these cards are per party, of course. So the Zentrum has its deck of cards and the SPD has its deck of cards. And when it's your turn, you play one of these 5 cards. And then the next player's turn it is. When you're playing a card, you can either play it for an event, which is the text down here, or you are using it for points. If you are just selecting the 2, the large number, the 2, then you're playing it for action points. If you want to debate, then you may use both numbers, so the large number and the small number. And by the way, this is a special card anyway. This is Philipp Scheidemann, an early prominent politician. And you see Politica means politician. And this is a reaction card. So if somebody plays a card and wants to place a society tile here, you may instead select a society tile from the same group of tiles and place it instead. And then you may redraw, so you draw a new card. So this is strong, but you see the numbers are pretty weak compared to the other ones. So, but still these politicians can come in handy. So let's move back to the main board. What do we have here? This is a German parliament with the various seats. So at the start, the KPD, the communists, have only 3 seats. The Social Democrats start with 7, the Zentrum is 5, and the DNVP, the right-wing nationals, have only 3. And this is a thing from the Vassal module, so it's not the number of cylinders. But let's say I want to change the KPD numbers, I can do this in this way. So the illustration here does not change, just the numbers. The numbers are changing. And the brown ones would be the NSDAP. They start with 0 because this party is almost non-existent at the start of the game, but it will increase in influence. Okay, let's move over here. Here we are having the foreign affair cards. So we are at the start of the game. It's late 1918 and Germany has not signed the Treaty of Versailles yet. But the government has a high interest to sign this bloody treaty, not only because it gives victory points, but also it removes the blockade. So this is the space, DR means Deutsches Reich, Germany. It has 6 spaces. And although the war is over, the Allied fleets are still blockading Germany. And only when the treaty has been signed, this marker will be gone. And by the way, when all these 6 spaces are filled with threats to the German Republic, then the game basically has won, the game is over. So the government has a high interest to sign the treaty, although it also means there will be government crisis roles, because for a majority of Germans, signing this treaty was not popular, and especially the DNVP will benefit also for their stories when the treaty has been signed. So that's foreign policy. And there's also a foreign affairs track over here. So you see, we are still at the what's the term? Armistice. At Compiègne 1980, that's Versailles, London, Dawes Plan, and so the more treaties are signed, the better it is for the German Republic. And this is the NSDAP track. As I said, it's a non-player power, and this is founding the party, and this is the game will end when the NSDAP takes over power. So then it is over. And there's also an economy track, because we are in late 1918 and Germany is in very, very bad shape. And especially the government powers, they try to improve the government. Whereas the communists and the DNVP do not necessarily have a high interest in better in a better economic situation in Germany. So this is also a very tricky affair. Also interesting is this track, this crossover here with the 4 parties at the ends. Because when you are debating some issues. For example, this would be an economic issue. And normally all issues, there are also the exceptions, they start at 0. And then the players, with the numbers here at the top, and the small one as well, they can try to move this issue over to their side. So the KPD could move it over there, and then they would win this issue at the end of the game rounds. And of course, winning an issue gives you huge benefits. It is quite important. And especially you see here the Dolchstoß. This is the legendary stab in the back. So the right wing, this one is important for the right wing parties, because they said, well, the German army at the end of the war was unbeaten. It was just the communists, the socialists, who stabbed this army from Germany from the inside, who stabbed the army in the back so that Germany would lose. So this is very important legend for the step in the back one for the right-wing nationalists. But there are also issues for the media. Of course, you want to win the media. Then poverty, of course, is quite a thing. Reparations, so paying for the war, is very important. Security issues and foreign affairs issues. And this is handled by this neat track. If you have maybe played Churchill by GMT Games, which of course is a 3, not a 4-player game, then you may know a little bit about this, how this is handled. But very nicely done in my opinion. And Weimar. No, let's move back to the cards very quickly. And what is also fascinating, that Weimar has so much flavor because of the card text and the event text. So this, by the way, this is Berlin, Voxhaus, which is early radio in Germany. And this is the Eisner Assassination. And Eisner was the head of the German Räterepublik at the start of the Weimar Republic. So this is this card, and you see, if you play it for the event, if this event is played, then the card is removed from the game. But this is a help for the poor, which is Armenhilfe in Germany. And this is a Council of People's Deputies, which is der Rat der Volksbeauftragten. And yeah, also very interesting, gives a lot of period flavor to my mind. And you see here, when I was talking about Eisner, the Munich Räterepublik. So here is already the Council Republic in Munich, in München, in place, and you also see an unrest marker over there. And probably this unrest marker is right over the fairground of Essen-Spiel. What else? The game has, of course, each player has a player mat with some details. You also can place bases in cities so that you are a little bit stronger over there and can conduct actions. These are the small parties. So at the start of the game, the USPD is controlled by the KPD, the DDP is controlled by the SPD, and the DVP is controlled by the Zentrum. But this can change during the game. Not to all parties, so the USPD can only be controlled by the KPD or by the SPD. Now it would be controlled by the SPD. Now it is controlled by the KPD. And of course, the German military, the Reichswehr, is included and is the police. So this is the Reichswehr and the police. They can be only used in the game by the government. So this is also something that is interesting. And Weimar is really a truly fascinating political game, and testing will definitely continue. Let me bring this down for a second. So this was just a very quick look, and if you have any question to that game, just let me know. One thing is for sure, the game at BGG, I think they are saying it will be released by Compass Games this year. No, it's too early. I think it will be next year in 22, and right now it's a 4-player only game. So we also have to think, can it be played with less people so that there are some bots? I'm not using, as you know, or as you may know, I'm not a big fan of bots. But we have to find a way that this game is playable with less players, in my opinion. And Matthias Cramer, a good friend of mine, he will be also the guest here of the show, and we will talk about Weimar in detail. But this is something for probably late this year. Right now, testing needs to continue. In my opinion, systems-wise, the game is in great shape, but it's tricky to test because you have so many cards. Cards are entering at various times during the game. Some are removed in the game, and then you are having multi-use cards. So cards can be used, as I said, for events, for action points, or for debating. And this is tricky, especially as the timeline cards are not party specific, but they are handed out to all the players. And so balancing is quite tricky, although in a way, at least in my opinion, the game is self-balancing a little bit. Because if you see that the KPD is close to winning because they are close to forming several Räterepubliken, Councils Republic in Germany, the other players will play against them. Same thing for the DNVP. If you see they are having lots of seats in the parliament, their influence is strengthened, they have paramilitary troops on the board, the other players will do something against them. But still, balancing a 4-player only game with so many variable factors is a beast, as you know. Blue Dane, as Daniel is saying, it's Weimar Republic by Compass Games, and an interesting game. And Matt is saying, stop saying you don't like bots, at least until after your next Kickstarter campaign. This is true. I can quickly mention this. Squaring Circle, we are making great progress here, in my opinion. We are really making great progress, and another friend of mine, Carsten, he's doing a tremendous job on the solo bots, which were designed by Matt, but Matt was not really sure if they would work correctly. And I looked at them, and I'm not a solo gamer, a bot player, so I had to find a very good solo player. And Carsten loves to play solo, and so this is a tremendous help. And of course, now I'm saying I love bots. I love bots, they are the best. I'm only playing solo, only with bots. This is my true opinion. No, but of course, in the pandemic, a game that plays 1 to 4 is better than 2 to 4 or 3 to 4. It is what it is. And more people, even if you are saying, and it's a game, and I'm getting back again to, you shouldn't take yourself too important. So I'm not a solo player, but I would never ever say, as the Vorsitzender, as the chairman of the German jury game of the year, he said nobody should play solo board games because he thinks this is a stupid idea. And I'm thinking our hobby, our industry is increasing, is so large that everybody finds something for themselves. If you love solo games, do that. Play solo games. If you are playing only with 6, so then play Westphalia, because it's 6 players only, and there is something in for everybody. So 1 to 4, like in Squaring Circleville, is better than 2 to 4, which brings me briefly back to Tharos, which is 2 to 4 and scales very well, so you can play excellently with 2. But Bernd Scholz, the designer, is right now is working on a solo variant. In my opinion, this is very complex, very difficult, because it has dice and you manipulate dice and you draw the dice from a back, and the colors of the dice are important, and then you arrange them, move them to actions, and on top of that you have cards, you have your player cards, you have action cards, you have building cards. So it's not that easy to do. But in the future, hopefully, more and more Spielworxx games, as more and more games in general, will have solo modes, bots, automas, or whatever they are called. It's not necessarily that I'm playing them, because with online options, most of the time I can find opponents, but if you prefer solo variants, do that, play that. Blue Dane, and again, Daniel is correct. This is a Compass Games game. What I can say, and of course, the game has the cards need text. So it will be, at this moment, it's an English language game. But Spielworxx and another very good German company at this moment are looking into a German edition of this game. It's not that easy, because it's not just translating the rules, it's doing all the cards, and basically everything needs to be translated. So it's a big job. I'm not sure, the other company is not sure, but it's a lot of time. But the game is fascinating. And Daniel is saying, I never get tired of hearing Daniel is correct. So let me modify this. The late Daniel, so the latecomer Daniel. The late Daniel is, I think, not a good term, isn't it? Meaning, so probably I now made a terrible mistake. Is late Daniel meaning that you are dead already? So I don't wanna mention this. You have lots of skulls in your fantastic games, but hopefully this was not a too bad mistake. Daniel, every time you hear that a devil gets its pitchfork, yeah. And rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated, Daniel. And Daniel is in great shape, I hope. Okay, so let me finish this off for this week. Please keep Tharos in mind. This is now the most boring time of a Kickstarter campaign, when not too much is happening, but please consider this game. It would be nice for a small publisher like Spielworxx, and thank you for all your support here. I will report back next week on Westphalia. I will keep you informed about our testings of Weimar. It could be that we are opening at a certain time, but this is according to Compass and to Matthias, the designer, to blind testing, and then I can forward the rules and a module. And Daniel is saying, Tharos, I backed it on day one. This is wonderful. Thanks a lot. And next week we will have a guest and we will talk about capstone games, the past, the present, the future. And I'm talking to the owner, to Clay Ross. So thank you for the time. If you would like to see a special topic discussed or have a specific question that you'd like to ask in advance, please drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. And till next week, bleibt gesund, Black Lives Matter. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.